On behalf of the Whitby Chamber of Commerce, I'd like to welcome you to the 2018 Mayoral Forum and Candidate Expo for the Town of Whitby Municipal Election. My name is Kevin Baker. I'm principal of Durham College's Whitby campus, which includes this beautiful building, the Galen Weston Center for Food, and I'll be your moderator for this evening. The Chamber launched a campaign in January called Municipal Matters, focusing their energy on ensuring our business community was engaged in the municipal elections, including hosting a Municipal 101 with town staff, an MPP forum, a regional chair forum in partnership with our neighboring chamber and boards of trade, and now it all culminates with tonight's event. As I'm sure you know by now, the Mayoral Forum is just one of our activities this evening. We have also invited candidates for all the town, ward, and regional councillor positions to be part of an expo upstairs on the second floor. It's a chance to bring your questions to them in a one-on-one format following this discussion. I'd like to extend thanks to our media partner, Rogers, who have joined us once again this evening. Tonight's event will be a question and answer session versus a traditional and more formal debate. We do have a few requirements for this evening. An initial list of questions has been prepared through submissions from the business community in a number of ways, including our recent membership survey. Each question will be directed to one candidate. It will rotate with each question, after which the other candidate will be given the opportunity to respond. Questions can also be submitted here tonight via paper, and we provide everyone this opportunity to do so prior to the start of this evening. If you have a question, please write it down and give it to my colleague, Tony Doyle, who is right there. Tony will review the question in the context of other questions that we plan to ask tonight, as we want to try and avoid duplication. You may address your question to a specific candidate, however, each candidate will be allowed time to respond. Please keep in mind that we may not have time to get to all questions received in advance. To keep us on track, candidates have 1 minute to respond to each question, and we have a timekeeper identified, Mr. Matt McKenzie. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for opening and closing remarks. How much time do they have for rebuttal? 1 minute for rebuttal as well, okay. Okay, so yellow card is 10 seconds left. Are we shutting the mics off at the end of the minute? I believe we are. Okay. Each candidate, again, as I mentioned, will be given 2 minutes for opening and closing remarks. Thank you to both of you for attending, and thank you to all of you for attending. We're thrilled to have such an engaged community, and we hope this event will be informative. So I'm pleased to introduce our candidates, who will provide a 2-minute introduction of themselves. So I'll start with Ms. Kennedy.
Thanks, Kevin. Oh, I have to sit right up to the mic. I'm falling back in my chair. So my name is Andrea Kennedy, and I just want to start by saying thank you to the Whitby Chamber of Commerce for taking this on and for hosting us here this evening. Municipal really does matter, and I'm thrilled to say that I, as a member, but also as someone formerly in a leadership role at the Chamber, understand how important it is for us to have great representation, but also have opportunities for our community to come together to ask questions and to question the process and just to have open dialogue with one another. So I am a leader in business and in this community, and I bring personal experience as an entrepreneur, both starting and leading a company, but also in working with existing companies to grow and to expand. I bring an evolved way of thinking that is long-term and strategic in the way that I problem solve and evaluate, and data-driven is very important to me. I want proven results. I want us to have scientific research insofar as it's possible. We don't want to make too many gut check decisions at this level of government. It's important that we look to the data to drive where we're going. I also have a very deep understanding of the role of innovation and technology and how it is shaping our world, how it's shaping us today, and where it's going to shape us into tomorrow. And we need to be taking that 21st century innovation-focused lens to all of the decision making that we're doing. I've been in the community engaged in dialogue with political leaders and members of government and proudly represented our community at provincial and national levels in the Chamber of Commerce network. And working with my council colleagues as one of 9 decision makers, I'll bring my experience, my vision, and my values to lead into this change.
Thank you, Mayor Mitchell.
Thank you. And again, thanks to the Chamber for hosting this event and to Durham College for letting us use your beautiful facility. You're both really great community partners. So it has been an absolute honor for me to serve as mayor of my hometown for the last 4 years, but I didn't run in 2014 to culminate a career in local politics. I ran because I grew up here. I was born and raised here, grew up in Brooklyn. And Brooklyn and Whitby then were both genuine, authentic, complete communities. The term bedroom community was not a phrase you ever heard. We really cared about our hometown. We were really proud to be from there. And both were centered around vibrant downtowns. So to me, downtowns really matter, and they are a challenge. But I firmly believe that you cannot have a great town unless you have a great downtown. And I firmly believe that a great downtown can be the rising tide that lifts all ships. So that has been my primary focus. I also learned from my 20 years on council that you only succeed as a team. So when I was first elected 4 years ago, I drafted a set of council goals. I shared them with the new members of council. We tweaked them. We brought them into our first council meeting, and we adopted them unanimously. And that was a really good way to start off as a team to achieve some outcomes, because those became part of the DNA identified in staff reports. They kept us aligned and on track through the 4 years. The result is that we accomplished a lot. And if you go to my website, donmitchell.ca, there is a long list of the accomplishments of this council, and I'm very proud of that, and all the members should be very proud of it. We also laid the foundation for a lot more, and that's what I hope to have the opportunity to do, to lead the next council, to build on the great foundation that has been laid. Thank you.
Thank you both. We're now going to begin the question portion of the evening. As stated earlier, each question will be directed to one candidate, after which the other candidate will be given the opportunity to respond following the initial responder. Answers are limited to 60 seconds. A yellow card, as we have already discussed, will be displayed to indicate 10 seconds remaining, and a red card indicates time is up. Each candidate also has 5 opportunities to provide a 30-second rebuttal to an answer. This is entirely at their discretion. However, once they have used their rebuttals, they will not have another opportunity later in the debate. So I just want to remind both of you, if when you're answering, I know it's a little unnatural, but lean into the microphone just so that everyone can hear you well, okay? So let's begin with the first question. So Andrea, if it's okay, I'll start with you on the first one.
Sure.
So the first one is, what will you do to reduce residential taxes?
So the focus around the tax is really have to look at the tax base. Our tax base presently is uneven. We are 80-20 split between residential and commercial. So my primary focus, and if you look at my platform, that's really a big piece of it for me, is to really take a hard look at economic development, to go out and actively attract and recruit the businesses that we want in this community. We need to choose who's going to be good community partners for us. We need to choose the types of businesses that are going to be best suited for the resources that we have here today, both in terms of the land use that we've got, as well as the talent base that we currently have here in the town of Whitby. We want to leverage all of those resources to the best of our ability and bring those businesses here who are going to be great community partners with us. And when they bring their tax dollars here, we start to help balance that tax base out.
Mayor?
Yeah, building the non-residential base, absolutely, in every way you can, and we've certainly focused that in our Innovation District initiative to find a new way to bring business to town and good paying jobs. The other thing is finding efficiencies, and over the last 4 years we've found $3.2 million in operating efficiencies, and those all go to control our residential taxes, which I would note are mid-rate in the GTAH.
Rebuttal? Okay. This one, you'll start, Mayor?
Do I have a choice?
No.
Okay. Just checking.
What are you going to do to make accessibility and inclusion for all priorities for residents in Whitby?
Well, I mean, that is a priority and has been a priority on every council I've been on. So we have an accessibility advisory committee. They're great. I sat on it myself for years. We have an accessibility team, a staff team internally who make sure things are built according to the accessibility standards. And so that's just part of the Whitby DNA right now.
Okay. Response?
We need to look at every decision that we're making through that lens and make sure that we are including everyone, that this isn't a to-do. It's not something that we want to check off as a must-do on our list of good policy and good practice. It needs to be how we are being as a community as we're growing.
Okay. Do I get to use one of my chips now?
You can.
Just don't throw it.
You can throw it at Matt. It's okay. Yeah.
Technically not a rebuttal, but we did just renovate our council chambers to ensure there's full accessibility now. So that was a significant step by this council.
Thank you. Okay, Andrea, this time. What will you do to attract business to the Whitby area?
We need to get away from the idea that we're just simply going to attract business. We need to go out and get the business that we want. We need to identify those businesses that are ideal for our community, and we need to go out and we need to recruit them. We need to get outside of our Whitby borders and engage with stakeholder groups that are in the technology and industries that we're most interested in and bring them here.
Here.
So as we speak, our vacancy rate on existing buildings is below 1%, so it's very low. So we have attracted a lot of business. Certainly, again, the Innovation District, I'll keep mentioning that because that's a key driver. Our tourism sector has also expanded dramatically. And all these are opportunities to develop the quality of place, which we know is a great driver of prosperity.
Okay. You can throw it at him. He agreed to take the risk at the beginning of the night.
When we look at the business counts survey, and that's gone out by the Durham region and looks at employment and businesses in this community, we have seen some growth. But the key indicator for me is that we have seen a growth of one business in the course of between 2016 and 2017 in the over 100 employee category. Those are the businesses that we need here.
Okay. I believe it's your turn, Mayor. The region of Durham and its 8 municipalities have been identified by some provincial and federal politicians and staff as quite often being in conflict on key issues and priorities for the region. Given the mayor serves as a regional councillor, what steps would you take to change that perception and work to ensure the region of Durham and its municipalities are viewed as advancing a strong and clear voice with the provincial and federal governments?
Well, most of our relations are with the provincial governments. I mean, I'm not sure what that source is in the provincial government, or I'm not actually sure even what provincial government we're talking about, but I don't think it's a very fair accusation. I'm not aware of a lack of alignment. I am certainly aware that Roger Anderson used to complain a lot that the province needed to look east a little bit, and he was right. I mean, we have the only tolled north-south 400 series road in the entire GTAH. Completely unreasonable and completely unfair. And those kind of things ground Roger and they grind me. I mean, we just are asking for equitable treatment and equitable funding that happens on the west side of Toronto.
We have leaders that span one end of this community to the other and north to south in the Durham region, and all of those communities need to be working together. The mayors need to come together, as well as regional councillors and the region as a whole. that statement that we don't always come to Queen's Park with a cohesive voice is one that I have heard as well on more than one occasion. We have to be able to lift together now more so than ever. We need to show a united front here in the Durham region. We need to help each other out. We need to understand that what lifts one lifts us all, and what holds one back will hold us all back in the end. And that starts with deep engagement with your partners at the mayor level, but also at a regional council level, because fundamentally we all sit at the same table together.
I've lost track again. I think it's your turn.
If I spoke,
I should maybe put a little initial beside.
You had this trouble the last time. Not trying to call you out.
What is your highest priority for change -improvement in the municipality?
I'd like to see us leveraging technology to its fullest potential. For example, I can point to planning and development, for instance. One thing that is of interest to me is leveraging 3D or artificial intelligence technology that I know exists because it exists elsewhere, that could show 3D renderings of the types of buildings and infrastructure changes that we're planning to make, so that our residents could actually get their heads wrapped around the picture of what it is that we're trying to propose. This would also help councillors who are not experts in planning and electrical and all of the technical aspects to be able to understand fully what it is that we're undertaking, so that they can get on side and get on board and help move projects forward more quickly.
Okay, done.
Our focus, my focus and the council's focus, has been on realizing the enormous potential Whitby has. We sit in the center of the region. We are a beautiful community. We have green spaces. We have 2 downtowns to develop. We have every opportunity to achieve. And again, the connection, the data connection between local prosperity and the quality of a place, because jobs are so transportable now and everyone's so mobile that they want to come to the place, that they want to live and work and play, and that's what we're trying to build, that great place. And that just builds a positive cycle that draws all kinds of people here and all kinds of jobs with them.
Okay. So I'll address this one to you now. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Please. I didn't see your hand. Yes. Hit me with it. Yeah.
The revitalization of our downtown core is going to take more than just a will to change it. It's going to take infrastructure, and it's going to take investment from commercial communities. We don't have the space in and around our downtown core to serve as locations for the big businesses that are going to come, that are going to bring the jobs that we need, that our community is crying out for.
Okay. So, Mayor?
Well,
no.
Oh, you gotta use
no,
You can. Yeah, you can use it.
again, there are big things happening in our downtown. There's actually going to be another great announcement tomorrow. But again, the notion that there is a giant job jar out there in the sky that you can go out and pluck huge factories and drop them in Whitby. You know, the region has been sending delegations for years overseas, and you can gauge the own success. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying our opportunity is local.
Okay. You want to respond? No. Okay. Okay, so next question.
Yeah.
What 3 other specific Whitby projects or priorities should we expect you to be championing to the provincial and federal governments?
So we are, with the provincial government, we've been working on a transit village concept with them, with Metrolinx, to realize down around our GO station a lot of jobs, and there's a lot of opportunity there, and we've had meetings with Metrolinx. Of course, the Brooklyn bypass issue, or gaining ownership and control of the provincial highways in and around Brooklyn, both Baldwin and Winchester, which is a real problem, is another big challenge with the province. And I met with the ministers at AMO, and another thing we're asking them is to repeal Bill 148 immediately. That's going to add $1.2 million to our property tax bill next year. Everyone on the Conservative Party voted against it when the Liberals passed it, so we were suggesting that maybe they consider repealing it now that they're in government.
Okay.
Could you please repeat the question?
Sure. What 3 other specific Whitby projects or priorities should we expect you to be championing to the provincial or federal governments?
So I know that the 412 tolls are a really big deal for our community. They're a tremendous issue, and it's one that we need to keep having that dialogue with, which is going to require us going to the province and engaging in relationship building to get there. Another issue is the release of the employment lands that are running up along the 412 and the 407. Negotiations need to be taking place in order for us to get those lands released. And also getting some more support from the provincial and federal governments, provincial government, around housing as an issue, affordability, and senior housing.
Okay. So this one's for you, Andrea. So what is your vision for downtown Whitby? Will it remain a priority? And what actions are you prepared to take to make it a reality?
So our downtown cores are the heart of the home, right? They are the hub. That's where four corners meet. They will always be a priority. I believe for any council at the town of Whitby that the four corners, our downtown in Brooklyn and our downtown in Whitby, will always be top of mind. What we can expect, time will tell. But we also have to consider that there are absentee landlords that own the buildings alongside north and south of Dundas. And there are challenges inherent with that. We can't just simply start all over again. We need to work with what we have. We need to invest new interest and new ideas and new investment into that community in order to help it thrive.
Mayor?
Well, downtown Whitby, I mean, that's what I led with. It's really my top priority because there's so much potential. There's great things going on now. We got a BIA, which is a real vote of confidence in the direction council has taken. The Brock Street building is going to be tremendous. Again, there'll be a big announcement tomorrow. And there are other opportunities, the former Chamber building, and there are other sites immediately around the downtown that are ripe for redevelopment. So we're building the positive cycle. And once we have this first big successful project, and it's big and it will be successful, you'll see a lot to follow. So it's all great news.
Okay.
We've been waiting for a very long time to see some of the development come to fruition in our downtown core. The fact that Whitby Chamber office building is sitting empty right now, to me, is a bit of a shame because we had no plan to fill that building, and yet we've moved a key community partner out of what was a prime downtown location. We talk about a transit hub that's been in the works for over 10 years. I'd like to see something actually happen.
Okay, Mayor Mitchell. The GTAA estimates Pearson Airport will have reached capacity in the next 10 to 20 years, while industry experts have cautioned that it will take 15 plus years to build a new airport. What is your position on using the lands designated 46 years ago in Pickering for a GTA East airport?
If there is a good business case for the airport, then they should build it. It's certainly not our decision. I personally, in all my years on council, have never seen a business case for the airport. I have certainly asked for it from all levels of government, including the federal level, but it doesn't seem to exist. But it should be a business decision, and quite frankly, if it was a really solid business case, I'm still puzzled that Prime Minister Harper and Minister Flaherty did not give the go right then, because they were in a position to do that. So I'm really puzzled by why the decision to go ahead has not been made. But it's certainly, and I'm puzzled by why we don't have the business case in front of us, though KPMG is apparently near completion on one as we speak.
Ms. Kennedy?
So there is an AECOM study that has come in that has said that those Pickering lands are the best option that we have for an outside, a secondary major airport. Ultimately, this is a federal decision. They will decide when they're good and ready, which clearly is still not yet. Pickering has decided that they are in favor. The Pickering Council thus far has decided that they are in favor of it. Our role to play in this is to be supportive of the decision and to move forward take action when a decision is made in whichever direction it goes.
Okay. Ms. Kennedy, would you support the merger of all Durham municipalities into one regional municipality?
I think there needs to be, well, so what's going to happen in this respect, right? This is something that could very well be imposed upon us. We've seen some of the writing on the wall. I think if that decision is being made around tables, and that's the unanimous decision either as a region to come to that, or if it is something that is imposed upon us by the province, our jobs as leaders in the community is to move forward from that decision point and take the action that's necessary to protect our community as best we can.
Mayor?
Like over my dead body. Come on. I care about my town. That's what I'm connected to. That's where I live. That's what matters. Durham Region, bless Durham Region, it's a servicing body. What we probably need is we may well need a GTAA servicing body. Certainly in transit, we need a region-wide transit system. But honestly, a city of Durham, not a chance on my watch.
Yes. Andrew?
We are not in a bubble. The difference between us and our neighbors today is a dotted line along a shared road. We can no longer say that we are separate and apart. Whitby does not exist in its own little space. We travel east to west in this community as well as north and south. We need to be open to the possibility that this amalgamation may be thrust upon us, and we do well to consider what those ramifications are going to be, dead bodies or not.
Okay. Mayor Mitchell?
Yes.
In 2017, the town had completed a service delivery review. One of the recommendations from that report was to borrow money to support infrastructure. To date, has this happened? Are you prepared to do more of this?
I am not, we have almost no debt, so we're certainly not borrowing money to support a lot of infrastructure. It goes through our regular budget process, but I am not aware that we have taken any extraordinary steps in that regard, no.
Okay. Are you prepared to do that? I guess was the second part of the question.
Well, I guess it would really depend on how much money and what kind of infrastructure. It's
Right.
kind of a unanswerable
Okay.
question in that format.
Okay. Ms. Kennedy?
So I'm at a disadvantage in that I'm not part of the system that's sort of led to part of that question, but I can say that I have seen for myself, and I think I have seen for myself that at times we have deferred investments at the town of Whitby, and we're now reaping the benefits of that. We have an infrastructure in terms of our IT and technology that is woefully inadequate for the needs of a 21st century municipality. So we're having to go back now and invest in that today. And nobody really likes to invest in those kinds of infrastructure updates. I think we need to be smart about where we're spending our money, but we also need to be thoughtful enough to say that if we have to borrow to manage our essential services, then we have to be prepared to take that step and encourage the region to do the same.
Just,
Chip?
I absolutely agree with most of Andrea's last comment. And in our last budget, I was very proud because we have a new CAO, great CAO, really focused on this issue. And our hires in the 2018 budget, the election year budget, were basically all in IT and HR. And I was really proud of council for doing that. They're foundational hires. We do have to lay a better base in IT. There's no question about it, to build better service.
Okay. Ms. Kennedy, this one's for you. Whitby is undergoing a development expansion, the likes of which the town has never experienced. Yet some are campaigning on a platform of keeping taxes in line or zero increases. At the end of the day, services cost money, and money comes from the tax base. How do you balance these two competing agendas?
So I think to a certain extent I've addressed that in the sense that my focus is from an economic development standpoint to recruit and bring more business to our community, the businesses that we want to have here, the businesses that we can most fulsomely support, both with the education base that we have as well as the talent. We have great, smart people that work and live in that live in Whitby and travel into Toronto. If we bring those businesses here, if we bring the capacity for that type of IT, innovative, fintech type of business to come to our community, we will start to equalize out that tax base, and we'll see some ease. As more businesses, as more houses come, we have more taxes. So there's always a dance that we have to do in that respect from a budgetary standpoint.
Mayor?
Thanks. I mean, the reality is that there is essentially a political ceiling on taxes, and councils tend to not be very different. You know, they'll pass inflation plus a bit. One of the real challenges we face going forward is that in a rapid growth community, all this new growth, the development charges do not cover the costs of that growth. A full third of it falls back. And in Whitby, we have no other revenue tools, unlike Toronto, that has serious revenue tools on top of ours. So that's why AMO as a municipality has identified this serious infrastructure gap and asked for some additional revenue tools. Ontarians pay the highest property taxes in Canada, which is because we have the worst support from our provincial governments in Canada. So that needs to change.
Okay, Mayor? Do you think the region should assume responsibility for all economic development going forward to provide a stronger position for major projects such as the Amazon headquarters and the airport?
This is kind of another over my dead body response. Right. But again, there is a healthy competition between municipalities in the region and also outside, and I think that is healthy. But certainly our economic development successes, and there have been a lot of them, have been driven by our own department, and our department gets a lot of praise for the efforts Commissioner LaBelle and his team. So I mean, the region has its role, but quite frankly, I haven't seen that much develop in Whitby that was generated through the regional economic development. I'm not criticizing them. I say they have a different focus, but I'm just saying that in Whitby, it is our team that is meeting the people and making them happy and finding the locations and doing the job.
Ms. Kennedy?
I think that we can't have an economic development arm in the region that doesn't include every member of the municipalities that are within it. I think voices at the table are critically important. There is a role for the region to play from an economic development standpoint. There are global businesses that are going to look at our communities through the lens not only of where they might be landing in terms of physical footprint, but also in terms of who and what surrounds it. So there is tremendous value in having that cohesive voice going forward. We fought amongst ourselves. We fight amongst ourselves as municipalities for businesses, and that should not happen. We need to be working together and see that what's good for one ultimately is good for us all, and we'll lift. What's a win for one municipality today means a win for another on another day, and not looking at trying to take away that from one another in terms of trying to keep it within our own borders.
Okay.
Just to emphasize again that in my view, all of the municipalities really have a different brand, a different feel, and a different focus on economic development. And I find that a strength for the region. I mean, in Whitby, we're particularly focused on downtowns, on innovation, on tourism, on outdoor opportunities. Oshawa has a different feel. Ajax has a different feel. That's good. We don't want to homogenize them under a regional brand.
Okay. Ms. Kennedy, would you support the creation of vendor registries for municipal service providers?
Yes.
Mayor?
What does it mean?
I didn't write the question.
Okay.
Does anyone know what
in
that
the room
means?
know what it means?
Vendor registries.
So in order to do business with the government, there's often a process for registering your business to do business with the government. There's a number of checks and balances that go forward once a business is registered. So that's why you would register or have a registry.
Okay.
Okay, so when I was chair of finance at the region, we arranged for annual shows or whatever, expos, to invite vendors who wanted to do business with the region to come and get us familiar with them. So you don't get people stuck, you know, you're not always dealing with the same people. Apart from that, of course, in a lot of projects you're pre-qualifying different groups, but so I guess this is along the same line. You know, it makes some sense to pre-qualify people in some sense and to keep opening the door to new entrants.
Okay. Mayor, how do you view the current council goals and what do you see changing in the next term?
I think the council goals are generally still relevant. There'll be more of a focus on the waterfront. I see that changing. And again, I see the initiative around our transit village and the discussions we're having with Metrolinx as rising up and being clearly identified on the goals as something where we should see some tangible progress over the next 4 years.
Ms. Kennedy?
I think that while the council goals are admirable, they're more of a list of things we'd like to see happen rather than directives. If we want to have a priority list, we need to keep it to 2 or 3 things that we can actually focus on. I believe that the council, in working with my council partners, we need to develop those council goals together, collectively, based on the viewpoints of everyone at that table. My priorities that I would bring to that table are to have an economic development lens on everything that we're doing, asking ourselves, are the actions we're taking and the decisions we're making driving business to our community and in our community? Are we building complete neighborhoods that take into account every single person in this community at every stage of life? And making sure that we are using a future-focused lens. Have we applied technology and innovation to the very best of our ability so that we're prepared for the 21st century future that's upon us?
Okay. Ms. Kennedy, what are your plans around building up infrastructure and keeping up with population growth?
So a lot of the infrastructure development that's going to be required to manage the growth that's coming to our community is regional in focus. We need to be taking a council approach. There will be 5 regional councillors around our table. We as Whitby representatives need to go forward to the region and advocate strongly on our behalf and to the new regional chair and other regional council to release some of the monies that are required to service the lands that we have, to make sure that we're ready to actually deliver on the promise that we've made to the people that have come to invest in our community.
Mayor?
So the residential demand in Whitby is so high that you know, they have no problem servicing their own lands, with the exception, the caveat I say that the DC charges don't cover it. The challenge is getting employment land serviced, and we did that very creatively through the West Whitby plan by designing it so that the services run up the new Des Newman Boulevard, and all the lands abutting the 412 will have services to their frontage. And we have the same opportunity in Brooklyn to leverage that residential demand to service the employment lands. That's the best strategy, because the region has certainly resisted pre-servicing of employment lands. That's become a point of contention at the region, but they have resisted it, and it is expensive to pre-service. So if you can get the residential developers to do it, that's the best outcome for taxpayers.
Yeah. Okay.
We have lands running all along the 407 that aren't going to benefit from this residential pre-servicing, that we also have to be really conscious that when we only bring servicing to the frontage and we don't take it that last mile, we make it far more difficult to sell that property and make that property attractive to commercial investment. Yes, we'd like you to come. Yes, we have this parcel of land and we almost have service to your door. We'd love it if you could just finish that little bit, and then we'd be happy to welcome you here. That's not how I would start my business, and I can understand why there are organizations that wouldn't want to do that either. Philly.
Cheater.
Sorry. Never mind.
Okay.
It's okay.
Okay. You know I'm teasing, right? The cheater comment. That was,
I'm allergic to chips.
Okay, so Mayor, this one's for you. What will you do to reduce the cost of transit for students?
Well, the transit for students is already substantially reduced. This is, I'm on the Transit Executive Committee, had been for years. This is a road we've been down many times, and certainly the U-Pass is significantly reduced, and I would not support reducing it more because it just shifts it over to the rest of the system, and that's not the way to do business.
Can you repeat the question for me, please?
Absolutely. Just make sure I have it so that I don't misstate it. What will you do to reduce the cost of transit for students?
I think that there's a broader transit conversation that has to take place. It's Durham Region Transit, so it's a conversation that we need to be having from end to end. We need our other municipal partners to come to the table to express their discomfort and unhappiness with the way our Durham Transit service is currently working. We need to put our students on buses. We need to make it available for them. If we hope to get cars off the road, then we need to give them an alternate form of transit. Where I live right now is a transit desert. There is one bus that runs down. My 16-year-old is functionally trapped unless I drive her everywhere. So bus is not on her radar. And even when she can take the bus, it costs her $8. We had an opportunity at Durham Region Transit discussions to look at offering transit to families with children 12 and under for free. And I think that that was a missed opportunity. I think that our youth, although the transit might be subsidized, they're still paying for it, and they can't afford to pay any more than what they're paying for tuition, books, and residence.
Thank you. This one's for you. When Highway 412 and 418 were introduced, they were not intended as toll routes, and plans called for additional entry-exit points. Do you plan to advocate for the removal of tolls and new entry-exit points with the provincial government on this issue in the years ahead?
Absolutely. This is an issue that is top of mind for all of our residents across Whitby, top and bottom, and east and west. What I would love to see is a partnership with our other municipal governments to come on side to support us vocally with delegations to Queen's Park to open up the dialogue around why this is a good move for them, for the Durham region, not just for Whitby, and that we need to have that stronger voice, that cohesive voice together to advocate for this. This is important, and it's something that we need to address.
Yeah,
absolutely. I advocated heavily for this through the recent election campaign, as people would know, along with a lot of support from Regional Chair O'Connor. All the mayors are supportive. All of the Conservative MPPs have given me written confirmations that they support the removal of the tolls. I'm mystified why they just aren't removed. I'm mystified why they're ever put on in the first place. The road is so underutilized. Is just a really poor use of tax dollars to build a facility like that. And as we sit here debating whether or not they'll remove the tolls, they are building more lane kilometers on 427 than the entire 412, and they are going to be toll-free. So when I talk about the West getting one deal and the East getting another, that's a big one.
Okay, Mayor, do you support the development of bypasses for downtown Whitby and Brooklyn? Why or why not?
Well, we have to get the provincial, in Brooklyn, we have to get the provincial government out of the road business in Brooklyn, not only because of the traffic, which is ridiculous, it's ridiculous in a lot of the town, but because every time you try to do a development application, you're dealing with provincial rules. And apparently the people in Queen's Park think it's actually a highway. It's not inside a community of 20,000 people, soon to be 40,000 people. So they want the buildings to be like 14 meters setback. They don't allow any accesses. Have you ever wondered why Brooklyn High School doesn't have an access on Baldwin Street? Right? So they route it through residential roads because it's a provincial highway. Right now, our major developer on the southwest corner is trying to get an access into that huge parcel of lands off Baldwin and is getting all kinds of pushback from the province. I mean, they should not be inside urban boundaries. They have to download those roads now and get out of the way.
Ms. Kennedy?
So those roads are there, and they do belong to the province. And so far, and as long as they do, those are the constraints that we're going to face. Building relationships, opening up dialogue, creating a collaborative environment in which we can have discussions around use of roads, becoming a welcome partner and venturing down to MTO to have and open up those discussions beyond making demands and wishing that it was different. It isn't different. This is the way it is, and we need to find a way to cope with it. And if that means spending more time going down and advocating, sending delegations down and coming up with plans in collaboration with the Ontario government to create these bypasses and to address these challenges, then that's what we need to do.
So, can I share one little story?
Yeah, but you got to use a chip.
So way back when I was a ward councillor years ago, the Brooklyn Business Association wanted to hang like flower boxes out front of their stores. They got a letter from the province asking them to send in their designs. Like, what?
Yep. Ms. Kennedy? So, do you expect to raise, lower, or maintain taxes for business, and in which ways?
I expect that our council, when it's our new council as it's struck, will come together to review the budget. We will make decisions based on what the budget shows us, the needs of the town, the wants of the town, balanced out with what we actually have to work with, and we will have to set a tax rate accordingly.
Mayor?
Well, the business tax rate set by the region at 1.45, which in a way is a bit of a hardship to businesses, especially as there's a lot more home-based businesses and online businesses. So you're paying a multiple of residential. But of course, if you lower that, you shift it onto residential, which is its own challenge. So taxes are based on assessment, and what we have found, particularly with retail recently, is that their assessments are going down. The value of the businesses are going down again because there's a lot of impacts here. Online is a big impact, home-based businesses are a big impact, and that's apart from the traditional power center impact. So that's not good news because it just means your profitability is less, but that in itself would lower your the taxes you pay.
Mayor? Small businesses in Ontario report that they are swamped by paperwork and red tape. How can Whitby do better on this file, or is it more a case of establishing better customer service policies and procedures in dealing with the business community?
So when I first became mayor, I met with Tracy Hansen, who was then the head of the chamber, to talk about how we could cut red tape. And then when she left and Natalie became head, I met with her. It's hard to generate information on what is the red tape and how we cut it. And I see Matthew nodding here. But certainly we're committed to that. We did adopt a service strategy report most recently, which will be a budget decision in 2019. And our CAO wants to improve our service at all levels, certainly including permitting in businesses. But again, this goes up and down the system. And I remember Commissioner Clapp, saying that the region spent a minimum of $200,000 on utterly pointless paper pushing dictated by provincial regulations. So that's another level. That's not our level, but it's another level.
Andrea?
So the Ontario Chamber of Commerce, in the blueprint that they sent to the new government, the new provincial government, they created, I'm sorry, I have to look at my notes, I don't want to mangle the name of it. It's the blueprint for making Ontario open for business, identified a need for business, for that level of government to create something that they're calling a concierge service. And that's a term that we've thrown around and I've heard thrown around at the town. We need to make it easier for the businesses to do business with us. They're not planners, they're not developers, they don't understand the ins and outs. You're talking about someone who's just trying to get their esthetician business off the ground. They need help. They don't know what they don't know. We need to do a much better job of shepherding businesses through our process and make it as streamlined as possible, using as much of technology where it's appropriate, but customer service interaction more so than anything else.
Thank you. Ms. Kennedy. Statistics Canada has reported that there are 416,801 small businesses. Yeah, right? Like, couldn't they just say around 400,000, right? 416,801 small businesses in Ontario, employing over 4.5 million people in the province. What must the town do in the coming 4 years to help support small mom-and-pop shop businesses?
So this does go back to the same conversation around helping these businesses get started and get going and growing quickly. We have services within our community already that are in place to support startup businesses, organizations like the BACD, like the Spark Center. There's only so much the town can do. We can help you to get open, but we can't help you necessarily stay open. Advocating for a strong and vital downtown for those businesses that have chosen and invested in setting up shop down there, certainly in collaboration with our BIA, trying to drive attention and interest to that particular area to support those businesses. The rents those businesses pay are not set by the town, they're set by the landlords, who again, as I would mention, many of whom are absentee landlords who are not attached to our community. I'd like to see what, if anything, that there is that we can do with those buildings and those individuals to help embed them into our community and help us support those small businesses that are starting up.
Mayor Mitchell.
Well, we're trying to create, and we recently adopted a set of incentives for the downtown, the core downtown and the greater downtown, which will strongly support more office and will strongly support more housing in and around the immediate downtown. So, I mean, as a merchant, and I was a merchant, there's the cost side and there's a revenue side, and if we can bring more people, obviously, that helps the revenue side, and that's good. In addition to the other matters of dealing with taxes and delivering the service as well, and bringing people to our town. So, but small business is obviously the key economic driver in any town, in any city, in any country.
Mayor Mitchell, this is the last question, so here you go.
We can keep going.
I'd rather not. I'm hungry.
I'm thirsty.
What is your understanding of the development charges here in Whitby, including how they are calculated, and do you think they are where they need to be in order to attract development to Whitby?
Well, development charges there's a whole formula study process that we go through about every 5 years, and we just completed it. And you are trying to maximize what you can realize through development charges, particularly on new residential growth, because to the extent you don't, it falls back again on the general tax base. So I mentioned my earlier frustration that they are actually insufficient to deal with the costs of new growth. So the short answer is you try to maximize development charges to reduce the pressure on the existing residential tax base.
Ms. Kennedy?
So I'm by no means an expert in development charges. What I do know is that we have become dependent on development charges as a way to fund our community growth. But we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. We're taking development charge money to build communities, putting in infrastructure that we're going to have to support years down the road, which forces us to have to build more communities so that we can get more development charges so that we can support the infrastructure that's already in place. If you look around a neighborhood similar to ours, we're in Williamsburg, there are infrastructure changes and updates that need to be made. We're all seeing it even as homeowners. One person needs a roof, we all need a roof. Right? Everything breaks down at once. But that money that was paid by the developers to build that community is long gone. We need the development charges from the next community to cover the costs that we're bearing today in terms of infrastructure updates.
Thank you, both of you. I now invite our candidates, and we'll go in reverse order. I now invite, first Mayor Mitchell to present your 2-minute closing remarks.
Well, it won't even take 2 minutes. I really just wanted to thank everyone for being here. It's a big town. We don't get the passion and the turnout and the engagement that we would like, and I can tell you that every member of council, every candidate here would like a lot more engagement and a lot more opportunity. But I thank you all for being here and for caring about our town, and I always like to finish with a quote from someone else because it's usually a little more articulate. And Margaret Mead said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has." And we'll do our best. I've appreciated the support in the past. I would love the opportunity to continue to lead the next council team. I think we can do some great things, and I thank you all for being here.
Ms. Kennedy?
Thank you. And to echo Mayor Mitchell's gratitude, part of the reason why I chose to run in this election was to give a platform for myself to try to engage with the community, to raise awareness around the importance of this level of government. It's the least understood, believe me, that is very clear to me. And it's thrilling to me to see you all here and to have this engagement. I think what I understand better tonight, after speaking to more people here and what I've seen when I've been out speaking with people at my mobile campaign office and phone calls and visits, the status quo isn't good enough. We can't afford to do what we've always done. We've always done it that way isn't going to work in this 21st century economy that we are in. And come hell or high water, we're changing. And we can either be at the front end of that change, leading, being part of the dialogue, engaged, passionate, vocal, getting outside of our comfort zone and going and stretching for the things that we want for our community and the things that we need, beyond just the things that we'd like to have, but the things that we need to have in order to be a thriving community of 200,000 people in not that long. We need to consider the people that are coming up behind us. We're not going to fix today's problems today. Our job on council is to make decisions so that we can fix the challenges of 10 years from now, 20 years from now, so that our children have a place to live, so that we have a place to live, so that everyone in our community can call this community home for as long as they'd like to, that they can choose to find a job here because we've brought business here, because we've rounded out all of our services to include cultural elements as well as all of our sporting facilities and tourism, so that everyone can play here, so that we truly are a fully inclusive community.
So I'd like to thank both of you for your very interesting perspectives in the dialogue. You were both very civilized. I'm 2 for 2. I think they're afraid of me. I'd also just like to say how pleased I am that we were able to host this event here tonight at the Galen Weston Center for Food. We're very proud of this facility. We encourage you to stay, to look around. One of the things that I encounter most often when I'm bringing people from the community in here is how many people don't realize we're open to the public and that our restaurant, that you can come, and it is a very nice restaurant. So we encourage you to check us out and come in, bring friends, family, and have a nice evening out. We do also have a pantry. It's not quite Farm Boy, but we do have prepared food there, and it's all prepared by students, and you might be surprised at how good it is. So encourage you to shop here too. So a special thank you to both of you, and actually to all the candidates who are here tonight at the forum. I encourage you to go upstairs and meet the candidates at the expo. And thank you to all of you for coming. Elections are nothing without you. So thank you for coming to meet our candidates and for making your voice heard.